The Eskom investigations went into dramatic mode last week when the Assets Forfeiture Unit of the National Prosecuting Authority attached 1.6 billion rands paid to the service providers McKinsey Consulting and Trillion Capital. The move is part of the investigation into allegations of corruption at state-owned entities. Parliament had been having its own hearings to establish the facts around Eskom's problems. And this week, two senior executives, Anoj Singh and Matshela Koko, appeared before the Eskom inquiry to shed more light. But did they? To tell us more is the journalist who had raised concerns about Eskom for a long time, and that's the Deputy Editor of Financial Mail, Sikonathi Mantshantsha. Sikonathi, pleasure to talk to you once again. And of course, the Eskom story is so alive and moving all the time. As I'm talking to you now, the High Court has ruled that the former CEO of Eskom, Brian Molefe, should pay back part of the pension. Can you just unpack the judgment for us, please?
Yes, he must pay back it's approximately 11 million rand that was paid to him upon his retirement, resignation, early retirement, pension, whatever that was, when he left Eskom at the end of December. Retrospectively, the board at Eskom at the time, headed by Ben Ngubane and Zatembe Khoza under the leadership of Lynn Brown, they decided Brian Molefe qualifies and paid him money to be 55 years old. Basically made him an employee that had actually served longer than he actually did, which by any definition is a fraudulent transaction. So Brian Molefe sued and demanded his job back, and the courts have said, nope, pay back the money. You were not entitled to a cent. It's ultra vires, which means whoever made that decision was not authorized to, and it's an extra legal affair. So it should not have been done.
It is outside the contract or whatever agreements.
Yes, it is beyond the authority and the power of that person to make such a decision.
Okay, well, I'm sure there will be more discussions around it, and there's likelihood that the whole matter, the judgment, might be appealed. But of interest is what happened in Parliament over the past 2 days. People staying up until the early hours of the morning on Tuesday morning and late night yesterday. The appearance before the inquiry, the parliamentary inquiry of Mr. Anoj Singh, the CFO, former CFO of Eskom. A lot was expected from his testimony. What is your response to what you saw happen there?
Both Matshela Koko and Anoj Singh went there armed with one big weapon. I don't know, was not aware. It was not brought to my attention, as everybody before them has. There is this collective bug of amnesia that is sweeping through the executive and political levels in this country, and they demonstrate that in Parliament. They went and did that, and certainly Matshela Koko was a lot more prepared on his evidence, which was basically to cast himself in the best possible light, despite the mountain of evidence against him. Anoj Singh less prepared, and he basically was totally exposed by the MPs. But of course, any person that is not naive would not have expected both guys to go in there and assist the inquiry by giving facts, because those facts would incriminate them and expose them to more legal problems. And Matshela Koko certainly did a better job of that. The MPs were less prepared or didn't know what questions to ask him. I mean, obvious things were just missed, and I don't know the quality of most of those members in that committee. They didn't do the homework they should have done. I mean, the media has piled it all out. It's in the open. This is not things we manufactured. We're dealing with facts that have been admitted to.
I found it strange, actually, on the part of the members of Parliament that they were ill-prepared in some instances to ask the questions that, as you say, are out there in the public domain. But in the case of Anoj Singh, let's deal with them one by one. What did you expect him to answer to, or what do you think was the most pertinent question for him to answer?
He did exactly what I expected him to do: lie, deny, and forget. He did all of those things. What should he have answered to? Anoj Singh walked in at Eskom in August 2015. Eskom received a month later 23 billion rand in cash from the finance minister, which is our tax money. It also received 60 billion rand in a debt write-off. So 83 billion rand was handed to him. He was the person to care for that money. Eskom went into business and made about 20 billion rand or 15 billion rand in profits over the next 2 years. But Eskom today, again under the care of Anoj Singh, is broke, does not have a cent even to pay suppliers. If it doesn't get 12 billion rand tomorrow on Friday, there's big problems. Where is the money, Anoj Singh? What happened to the money? Forget what had happened before you arrived, because you claim you had no. What happened to the money? How could you sign away just like that 1.6 billion rand and give away to someone you've already admitted had done absolutely nothing to earn the money? That's McKinsey and 2 trillion. They didn't ask those questions. They certainly didn't corner him with evidence. He worked at Transnet. We're still missing 5 billion rand there in the South China rail contracts for the trains. Where Anoj goes, money disappears, and the members of parliament don't seem to grasp it. There's a lot of evidence that we piled up, us certainly in the media. Anoj going to Dubai, he admits in parliament that he was hosted in Dubai by this guy whom we found to be, his profile says he assists people to open bank accounts when they arrive in Dubai. What were you doing with him?
Yes.
Why did that guy host you in Dubai? For what?
Okay.
What did you do? What did he expect from you? Why did you need to open bank accounts in Dubai?
In the case of Matshela Koko, what did you expect?
Exactly, again, the same: deny, lie, forget.
But the key question,
and he delivered.
You should have answered.
The key question. So your daughter has got 1 billion rand of contracts, and you don't know? How big is your house? That you have not spoken to your daughter about this. You have not seen her. Second thing. How you seem to be quite forgetful, and the very next moment you remember things. Again, there's an invoice. He says he paid for his stay in Dubai. Please produce your statement. Let's see how you paid, because in our possession we've got invoices that had been paid for you for that particular trip. What is it in Dubai as well? But the key question, please show us how you paid for your trip and your family's trip to Dubai.
And finally, what's going to happen next? The Assets Forfeiture Unit last week said it was going to recover 1.6 billion. I'm not sure if it's recovered yet. And what are the next steps, very briefly?
That 1 billion rand, certainly from McKinsey, is in a trust account waiting to be delivered to Eskom if Eskom asks for the money. Eskom has asked for the money, although Eskom has again said there was nothing wrong with that contract, but if you want to pay us back, we'll take it. It will have to go the criminal route in the way of trillion. That's what should happen. Those are the steps that have been taken. What should then happen is it should be followed by arrests of the perpetrators, the people who stole the money and gave it to McKinsey and Trillion. Those people are Anoj Singh. They played a great part. Anoj Singh, Matshela Koko, Prish Kavenda, Edwin Mabelan, and more. All of those people need to now answer to a court of law. How did Eskom's money land in the bank accounts of other people? And there's a whole lot more. Now, the NPA and the police seem to have finally woken up from their 8-year slumber. There is hope then. And the real answers South Africa will get is when there's a criminal sentence awaiting in a court of law. When someone is answering questions in a court of law and they are afraid of being convicted, that's when we will get things. And that process needs to start with Jacob Zuma all the way, ministers and all the way down through the levels of Eskom. Everybody committed crimes there, and they need to answer.
Sikonathi Mantshantsha, thank you very much for being with us here.
You're welcome, sir.
Right, that's the take from the man who's been on this story the longest. That's the Deputy Editor of Financial Mail, Sikonathi Mantshantsha, helping us make sense of the Eskom inquiry and investigations there. And that's all we had for you tonight on the show. Until next time, good night to you.